Hey everyone, it's Scott Hansen from NFL Red Zone reminding you to watch Sports Ballers, the podcast that gets you caught up on everything Washington sports and beyond.
Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Sports Ballers podcast. I'm Evan Ash, joined as always by Corey Puffett and Eric Meyer. Today on the show, we're going to talk a little NBA. There's some, college basketball news, NFL obviously, but I would like to start in Major League Baseball with the Baltimore Orioles, who are 3-1 since our last show. They took 2 out of 3 from the Pittsburgh Pirates here in Baltimore over the weekend. And Eric and I were in the barn for the Friday night game, a squeaker 1-0. This team insists on keeping it close. They just can't hit when they need to really get a nice big lead. But Eric, what are your thoughts on the O's of late?
Well, I thought they threw in the towel, according to Buster Olney and Bob Nightingale, when they traded Trey Mancini and Jorge Lopez. Season was over, apparently. Well, so I guess the rest of the team had other ideas. And
this is the Pirates we're talking about, just to be clear.
Beat the Blue Jays yesterday. Which point. And by the way, they also they swept the Rangers, who also suck. So that doesn't help my point. But
they swept the season series from the Rangers, all the games.
Yeah, that's pretty good. So yeah, the Orioles are good. Obviously, we still have reservations about how good this team actually is. We know that a lot of the players, specifically the pitching staff, is probably playing over their heads right now. But what difference does it make? They're winning games. Like, this is a results-oriented business, and at the end of the day, if they're winning, I'm not here to complain. I mean, if they're going to crash back down to earth at some point, well, then it was a fun ride while it lasted, but it sure looks like they have no intention of stopping winning some games. I mean, they picked up a win against the Blue Jays. They're up 2-1 early in tonight's game. They've beat the Rays 3 out of 4. That was just after the All-Star break.
I believe so.
Yeah, the Rays are a good team, so it's not like they're just have only been beating up on the bad teams. They've played quite a few good teams, and they were competitive with the Yankees. They lost that series, but it was a 2-1 series, and one of the losses was by 1 run. It was a very close game. So it's not like the Orioles are just being a doormat to these to these good teams and then taking advantage of the crummy teams. They're a legitimately solid team right now. They're competing with the best teams, and they're doing what they're supposed to do against the bad teams.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's exciting to watch. They're just playing competitive baseball. I don't have any delusions of, World Series parade in early November, but it's right now it's just fun to watch. Having the last 3 seasons that there were 162 games, Orioles lost over 100 all 3 of those. And then added a 25 and 35 in the 60-game season in 2020. But they went 52 and 110 last year, right? They've got 57 wins already this year. So, it's been, I don't know that it's been magical just yet, but it's just been, Eric, like you said, a fun ride. And I'm just going to have fun and enjoy it. Because looking really closely at this team, it's not very good, right? There's no shortage of bums that need to go. So, once those kind of guys are gone, and once they get, a good pitcher, maybe they'll be even better. I was up till about 2 a.m. last night watching the Yankees and the Mariners, just making myself sick, frankly, rooting for the Yankees. Just, but they were playing the Mariners, and the Orioles need the Mariners to lose, and sure enough, they did. The Yankees scored like 2 runs in the first inning, then the Mariners got a run back, and then the Yankees got a couple, and then the Mariners. Oh my goodness, Corey, Jameson Taillon, he sucks. He can't play. He got the first 2 outs of an inning, and then allowed a double, and then walked 3 guys in a row. Like I was just beside myself.
If, you're giving me new information that I might push back on.
Oh my goodness, this guy. He was drafted ahead of Manny Machado.
That's true. He was drafted number 2 in that draft.
Yeah. Bryce Harper, Jameson Taillon, Manny Machado. Make it make sense, somebody. So he's terrible, but the Yankees were able to really get to the Mariners starter, so they ended up winning. The Orioles are only 1 game back of a playoff spot, and it is August 9th right now. And it's not like it's a 60-game season like 2 years ago where the season only started July 24th. They've been playing since early April and, gotten to this point, and they're still in the mix. So
Y'all
I think
are
that's
5 games above 500 with 51 games remaining?
53.
53 games remaining.
I mean, I'd say that's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's already an improvement over last year, even if they lose the rest of them from here on out. Which, I will take improvement, right? I wasn't expecting, the rebuild to bear any fruit this soon. I thought 2022 was going to be another bad year, and then 2023 would be a year like this year. But as soon as the Orioles called up Adley Rutschman, it's just been the Adley vibes the whole time. It's been insane. So, glad to have him on our team. And I just get so frustrated sometimes with these guys. But, they beat the Blue Jays 7-4 yesterday, winners of 6 of the last 7. They let one slip away against the Pirates on Sunday. That was frustrating. Austin Hayes came back from a little break he had. He didn't go on the injured list, but he had some side soreness. He played last night and hit a home run. Ryan Mountcastle,
He hit a home run too.
Yeah, he hit a home run last night too. But not only was he riding the struggle bus, he was driving it. He was selling tickets. He's been so bad for a month. Just throw 2 sliders low and away, and it's 0-2, and then throw a fastball right down the middle, but up, and he'll swing right through it, and that's his at bat. 0 for 4 every single night. So, glad to see him make some really good contact. He crushed that ball. And then someone called Zubin Mehenti, I believe he's a Sports Center anchor.
Yes, he is.
He was suggesting that the Orioles should have been buyers at the deadline, which is frankly absurd. If the Orioles had been buyers, they would have ended up like the Tigers, right? They spent all their money and they're still bad. So like the Tigers, their rebuild process started before the Orioles one did. But the Tigers are still terrible. They can't do anything. They brought in Javi Baez for a bajillion dollars.
Well,
and
the reason why
he can't play.
You know the reason why that is because they're following the Buster Olney method of how to rebuild, which is to not actually rebuild and just continue reloading a terrible team.
Yeah.
Like when you're a terrible team, you don't have players to move for better players or for players that are actually going to help you make a playoff push. So you wind up, just getting more mediocre players.
Yeah.
And you keep staying mediocre, not good enough to make the playoffs, but also not bad enough to get anybody good in the draft.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's the Tiger sets. They're stuck in that eternal cycle of suck.
And that's what Buster Olney seems to want for the Orioles, and anybody who suggests that the Orioles should have been buyers. I mean, yeah, when you're looking at things from a short-term perspective and you see, oh, this team is competing, and oh, this team is just outside of a wild card spot, and if you're that close to a wild card spot, you should push to get it. And yeah, you should try and get that wild card spot. These, the players that are there should try to continue winning and try to continue staying in the mix. But that doesn't mean that you go and bring in other players that are not going to fit the long-term mold of what you're trying to build with this team.
Yeah, the buying at the deadline for the Orioles is calling up some of their better young prospects that are major league ready, right? Like the buying at the deadline is calling up Gunnar Henderson, it's calling up DL Hall, it's calling up Kyle Stowers. That's your buy at the deadline because it serves two purposes. One, it presumably makes your major league roster better because, those guys should get starts and at-bats ahead of guys like Rougned Odor, ahead of guys like Tyler Nevin. I mean, these guys are just straight up not good baseball players. I mean, they're on the team, and I guess they're good clubhouse guys or whatever. But
that don't matter.
In terms of production, it ain't there. And so having these guys come in and fill those roles presumably makes the team better. And more importantly, it also gets them major league reps so that they could be better for the team next year and the year after that. So it's not strictly about making a 2-month push to snatch a wild card spot, which would in all likelihood result in getting bounced by a team like the Astros or the Yankees, even if they were able to get there.
And then you would be out those young prospects. You'd be out your future. You'd have some guy who's established right now, but is probably nearing the end of his career, and is only one player compared to 3 or 4 prospects you'd probably have to send to get a guy who's actually worth buying at the deadline.
Yep. So that's really the method of buying that I would consider. And another thing is, Orioles fans aren't stupid, and Orioles fans also have been around long enough to know what the Orioles had in 2012 to 2016 didn't last specifically because of overly enthusiastic desire to buy at deadlines. That's what they never actually built a farm system. They never actually kept a flow of talent coming in from AAA and AA. They just said, okay, we've got this core. Let's surround them with what we consider maybe passable major league players, hopefully. Sometimes they turned out to be a lot worse than that. And the end result was maybe you make the playoffs, maybe you don't. And then when these guys age out, like Adam Jones or Chris Davis or Mark Trumbo or J.J. Hardy, now you're left with absolutely nothing, and you have to start from scratch. And that's where the Orioles are, or have been the last 4 or 5 years. And they're just coming out of that massive rebuild process that strategy went about. The Orioles have made the playoffs somewhat recently. The last time they made the playoffs was 2016. That's not that long ago. The Orioles have sat and waited for 14 seasons to make the playoffs between 1997 and 2012. So it's not like the Orioles are sitting there saying, oh my God, we've got to break this playoff drought. We got to go for it now to appease the fan base. The fan base understands. We've been through this. We've seen failed rebuilds. We've seen not going through the actual process of building up a long-term contending window like the Orioles plan to do. And the way to avoid having that become short-circuited is by maintaining focus on your farm system, keeping your eye on the ball, and not chasing something which is basically a novelty. Like chasing a 6th playoff spot? Are you kidding me? Like, come on, what's the point in doing that? You want to get to the point where in a year or 2 or 3, you are the team that's 10 games up, right? Like, you want to be the team that's competing with the Yankees for the division because then you're for real.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not competing for the division title, it's not to say you can't win a World Series. Like literally you can. Like that's the if you couldn't win a World Series as a wild card team, we wouldn't have a wild card,
right?
So you can, but if you're not a division winner, then you can't go into the playoffs expecting to win a World Series. You can't even really go into the playoffs expecting to win a series if you aren't a division winner because the odds are against you. You weren't one of the best teams in baseball.
And even being a division winner it's not critical if your team's actually objectively good, right? Like the
Well, I mean, certainly back in the day when, oftentimes the best two teams in the AL were the Yankees and the Red Sox.
right, but that happens quite a bit where a wild card team, even if they're not the second best team, the fourth best team, if it's a really good team, could still win the pennant.
Sure.
But
the fifth team, the sixth team,
if they're good, if they're objectively good, they can. The Orioles are currently, as constructed, not an objectively good baseball team.
they're an objectively above average team.
They're okay.
They're
right.
5 games over 500,
and they're playing above their heads, right?
Yeah.
But like putting this version of the Orioles in a playoff matchup where who would be the game 1 starter for the Orioles? Jordan Lyles? Like Jordan Lyles, Kyle Bradish,
or Austin Voth.
Tyler Wells. Like Corey doesn't know who any of these people are. And
Tyler Wells is injured, so it won't be him either.
Oh, geez. So I mean, this is the starting rotation of the Baltimore Orioles.
Not a single one of them has made a start in our fantasy football league this year, or fantasy baseball league this year.
Yeah, and also consider the fact that
why is that?
Yeah,
I wonder.
why is that?
We've got a couple of Orioles fans in our league, and even they are not using
We
them.
know better.
They are very much available on the waiver wire right now, just to be clear.
The only one that would get starts if he was healthy was John Means, and he ain't healthy.
Yeah, he hasn't been healthy.
So
I was starting John
also
Means last
beyond
year.
just the fact that the starting rotation isn't good, you're getting regular starts from Rougned Odor, who's batting sub 200. You're getting regular starts from Tyler Nevin, who stinks. You're getting starts every 5th day or so from Robinson Chirinos because Rutschman can't catch every day, and he can't hit anything. And these are usually a third of the Orioles lineup is made up of just outright bums. So the fact that they're winning is a small miracle as it is, and it's a credit to the 5 or 6 guys in the lineup every night that can actually hit a little bit. But that's not sustainable when you're actually going head-to-head in a playoff series against the elite teams of the American League.
Oh, no. Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, the Pirates and the Reds and the Rangers are going to be in the playoffs. You're not going to get to whoop up on them like you do in the regular season. So, to compete in the playoffs, you have to be actually good. And this Orioles team, while fun, entertaining, not actually good. Let's see, there's another note in here. See, I think Zubin also continued that Fangraphs is for nerds, and I take issue with this right off the top, right? Like
Eric does too.
Yeah, just right off the top.
Although I guess it also depends on how offensive you find the term nerd to be.
I don't find it offensive at all because I agree. Fangraphs is a baseball nerd site, and I go on it all the time because I don't care.
I mean, when they say stuff is for nerds, they're trying to belittle and put down the analytics and stuff, but that the person saying that is really telling on themselves, right? That they just don't understand it, so they just dismiss it as crap, and they want to. Oh well, I'm the tough guy. It's all about grit and determination. Like, well, there's more to it than that. Well, it's more nuanced than that. So to just dismiss all the numbers, Michael Wilbon, as analytics junk is just ridiculous. And maybe you should have learned math class without a calculator, perhaps.
Well, and the thing is, again, the context was that after the highlights were finished of the Orioles-Blue Jays game, was that Zubin was mentioning the fact that Fangraphs only has the Orioles at a 5% chance to make the playoffs even at this point, which looks kind of ridiculous, I think, because you're only 1 game behind, saying you've only got a 5% chance to beat out the Seattle Mariners for a playoff spot. It's objectively kind of silly, but you also consider the fact that the Fangraphs model, what I can glean from it is they're projecting the rest of the season to go how they projected the overall season to go back in March. And that was probably having the Orioles be a 60-win team. So they're probably looking at the Orioles over the last 53 games and saying, yeah, they'll probably win somewhere around 20 of those, at which point they're definitely not making the playoffs. But whereas Baseball Reference probably adapts their model to what they've seen during the regular season to give the Orioles a little bit more credit. But, I don't take huge issue with calling Fangraphs for nerds. What I do take issue with is the fact that Zubin Mehenti, of all people, is saying something negative about nerds when you look at him.
That's true.
Like this is a bespectacled man who is very much balding and has a very sad effort at a comb over on SportsCenter every night. I wouldn't exactly say he's Mr. Macho Man. So suggesting that somebody else is a nerd, look in the mirror, dude. Like who are you talking to when you're running around looking like that? Also, just give up on it, man. Shave it. It's over. It's over.
So back to the analytics. Just one thought that I do have about it sometimes, because the concept of analytics makes complete sense. I mean, we have it's not like we're in the early days of these sports and we have a small sample size to draw from as we make these determinations of what tends to work in certain situations and what doesn't work. Like, we have a lot of data to draw from, enough that you can make a pretty reasonable assumption that the rates at which things happen, the percentages, are going to continue to stay roughly where they have been. That said, I do sometimes wonder, I don't know how familiar you guys are with quantum theory, and I'm no quantum physicist, so I know I can't necessarily explain the in-depth details of it, but essentially there's an aspect of quantum theory that basically says that by observing something, you actually change the state of whether it's the matter or the way that it is interacting with its environment. You actually change it just by watching it. It no longer acts the same way because you're paying attention. And I do sometimes wonder, could there be some application of that to the use of analytics, where by actually making a concerted effort to continue to do things as the analytics say, which means that we're going to attempt them more often, it might influence those percentages and make things that have worked more frequently in the past by chance happen less frequently now because we're actually making a point to do it.
I mean, the world is always changing every day. So, like, whether or not you're paying attention to the analytics, the fact that you breathed this morning, something different happened. So, like, I'm not feeling that so much, but
there's also the aspect of it that you can use analytics against analytics in some ways. I mean, you can be better prepared and think, okay, well, this person really follows the analytics, so we know what they're going to do in this situation because they're going to follow the analytics. So we're going to devise a defensive strategy that specifically counters that and just ignore all the other things that you could do in that situation.
Yeah, and then the offense switches back and readjusts. Like, it just keeps building.
Do we think that we're going to see that readjustment at some point where people are actually like ignoring the analytics or doing the opposite of what the analytics say to do?
I mean, they should be the best they can. Where are we even going with this?
This doesn't compute for me, because the idea that the analytics can go awry because you're applying them, historically inaccurate. Like, the teams with the most focus on analytics are the ones that are there at the end of the season every year. So
analytics, the use of analytics at this level is still fairly new, though.
Yeah, but the point is that if it's not superfluous or it's not ubiquitous at this point, then you're not going to say, oh my God, everybody's doing it, so that means it sucks now, so let's go the other way. Like, the teams that suck are the ones that aren't. At some point,
30 baseball teams are all going to be slaves to the analytics, and out of them, 12 teams are going to make the playoffs, and the other 18 teams will not make the playoffs.
But it depends on, like, there's more than just, I think anybody, even some dude that only works on a computer for a baseball team, would acknowledge that there's more to baseball than just numbers on a spreadsheet or theorems. Like, the people that succeed are the ones that scout the best. And scouting is more than just, oh, what's this guy's walk rate? What's his weighted runs created plus when it's raining sideways in March or something like that? It's not like that. You can watch and see somebody and observe the talent, right? And that's the thing where, to me, that's where analytics is basically just evaluating information. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not okay, analytics say this. Analytics tell you what to do based off of history. So if the history changes, the analytics change too.
True.
So, I mean, it's a constantly evolving thing, because we used to think batting average was the greatest thing ever. And then we moved to OBP, and then we moved to OPS, and then we moved to WOBA and weighted runs created plus.
I still believe in, the best stat in baseball, which is the RBI.
Excellent. Good for you. I mean, if you're still into that type thing. But it's a constantly changing thing because the entire purpose of analytics is just understanding what the information actually is telling you. So I don't think that if you are a slave to analytics, you are not actually doing analytics. You're following a recipe, and not adjusting it would make you a failure in that regard.
Point taken.
And that's what I think the non-analytics people are doing. They're just relying on stuff that's ancient and outdated to the point where even casual baseball fans would say, what the hell are you still doing that for? Whereas other people might be a little bit slower, and the smartest guys are the ones saying, okay, what's next? What's the next inefficiency that we can take advantage of?
Yeah.
Alrighty. Let's see. So, Corey, your Yankees having a bit of difficulty.
I thought that us doing a podcast last week was gonna, get them back on the right track. It did not. They are 1-4 since their last show.
I was sitting here conflicted.
And the
yesterday.
one was last night.
Yeah, I was conflicted because I was like, okay, the Orioles need the Yankees to beat the Mariners. But this might be the first time ever where Corey is saying the Yankees haven't won since our last show instead of us. Because we were saying it all last year and the year before and the year before and the year before. I was like, wow, they might actually go winless since our last show. That would be something else. But I am nevertheless glad that they beat the Mariners last night.
Yeah, that win last night snapped a 5-game losing streak.
Ooh.
The curse of Joey Gallo.
Apparently,
yes.
the Yankees couldn't win after trading him to the Dodgers, and the Dodgers couldn't lose. So, the big thing to talk about with the Yankees, not just their losses since our last show, but really a lot of their losses since our early July show before we took our break. The relievers are at fault for most of our losses. The Yankees are either tied or leading. After the end of the 6th inning in like 90 or 95% of their games in the past month. But their losses are all coming because the bullpen just completely falls apart. Clay Holmes has been terrible. Michael King is hurt. Aroldis Chapman, I don't even know if he's been pitching lately because I don't see him out there at all.
He pitched last night.
Did he pitch
was
last
taking
night?
forever to throw the ball. Yeah.
Yeah,
brutal.
I thought that he had
he's
come off the IL, but I haven't really seen a lot from him. And I know, they're not using him in the 9th inning at all, which is perfectly fine with me, by the way. But, it's just been a really rough go with the bullpen. They need to get that figured out and fast. But yeah, big win last night against Seattle. Logan Gilbert had a rough start, his second bad start in a row. I'm glad that I dropped him when I did. Poor Sam Martin picked him up in our fantasy league and started in these last 2 games. And yesterday he wound up with -5 points total for the day, in part because Logan Gilbert was minus 3.25 or something like that.
Logan Gilbert is a pitcher.
Yes, he was the starting pitcher for Seattle last night.
Oh,
Yeah, he gave up 7 earned runs in 4 innings on 10 hits. I dropped him specifically because he was going to be facing the Yankees in his next 2 starts.
He's serving up some meatballs.
If Sam Martin drops him, I might go and pick him back up because now he's done facing the Yankees. I was hoping to get him back after that stint. I just knew that he wasn't going to pitch well against the Yankees.
Okay.
Aaron Judge hit his 44th home run last night. He's on pace for 65. The current record for both the Yankees and the American League is 61. So he is on pace to beat that pretty handily. I'm still rooting for that to happen. And then last night in the first inning, Matt Carpenter, who has just been fantastic for the Yankees this season. Ever since they acquired him, there was all the hoopla about, what's going to happen with him and Garrett Cole. Are they going to get along okay? And things have been fine. Matt Carpenter grew a mustache, and he's been great. And last night he fouled off a Logan Gilbert slider in the first inning, right off the top of his foot. He was visited by the coaching staff. He finished the at-bat, struck out in it, and then didn't return. X-rays confirmed that he suffered a foot fracture. No timetable yet on when the team expects him back, but it was confirmed that he's going to be placed on the IL. He's hopeful that he can return this season. With 50-some games remaining. Certainly that's possible. I guess it just depends on how bad the foot fracture is and how quickly it can heal. Foot fractures, they can take a while to heal properly. Part of the reason why there isn't a timetable is because the recovery time has a pretty wide range on foot fractures. You just never really know, how a certain person's body is going to respond to it. And I mean, feet are just notoriously bad healers. So we'll see what happens there.
Continue talking for a second. If my computer would hurry up. It's
okay.
It's not.
So I guess we can talk just a little bit of fantasy baseball. My team is in fuego still. I think I've led the league in scoring like 6 of the last 8 weeks, including this past week. And this week I'm playing Corey Fronton to try and lock up my division. Eric, I think, has been eliminated from division contention and maybe even from the playoffs. I forget exactly. I don't even know if Eric's been paying attention to his fantasy team.
I know I have not been. Yeah.
Seen a number of days where he's got injured players in the lineup, or I don't think he's maximized his pitcher starts in like 3 weeks running.
Well, once I tied, I was just like, okay, come on.
Oh, right. You tied the same person twice.
You tied again this past week. The same person, by the way. Both of you have 2 ties this season. So that's hilarious. I no longer have to put some number of games back in our division race.
That's true.
And then Evan, your team is kind of, it's been a little bit
Rising
inconsistent over
dead.
the last few weeks, but you did beat the top team in your division last week to pull within a game. So you still are in the hunt for your division title. After
What
just
is the
falling
playoff
apart
odds? What does that look like?
Well, I think you have clinched a playoff spot. I've clinched a playoff spot. Sam has clinched a playoff spot. I think Corey Fronton has like a 96% chance, and Sean has like a 4% chance right now, or something like that.
Okay. All right. I mean, with fantasy sports, you really just got to get into the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, anything.
I don't
can
care if I
happen once you
win
get
the
there.
division or not. I just, need to be in the dance.
Yeah, so we've got like 3 weeks left, but 3 of the spots are already locked up.
Yeah. Shout out Pete Alonso, who's just hitting bombs all week.
Yeah, shout out Pete Alonso. We got you minus 1.5 points yesterday.
Oh, okay. Well, he got me like 30 last week.
Yeah, he did.
He was insane. Adley Rutschman got like 20 points.
Yeah, he's been doing really well the last few weeks.
Yeah. And he was on waivers. What were y'all doing?
Well, I mean, you picked him up like 3 weeks before he actually got called up.
Again, what were y'all doing? Right? Like, you knew he was going to be one of the best hitting catchers in the league as soon as he got to the league. So, y'all were snoozing. That's fine.
I mean, I've still got a better record than you, so.
You could have had an even better. Who was your catcher on your team? Is it Alejandro Kirk?
No, I have Will Smith.
Will Smith.
He's pretty good.
He's been just fine for me. I have no complaints. Corey Fronton has Alejandro Kirk,
who's also pretty good.
Yeah, who is also pretty good.
All right.
Sean, who had Wilson Contreras, drops him so that you now have Adley Rutschman and Wilson Contreras, and
Yes.
Sean keeps going back and forth between Gary Sanchez and William Contreras and Christian Vasquez.
Didn't he get traded?
Yeah, Christian Vasquez did get traded.
Okay. He got traded, and he found out he got traded, during an interview or something.
I did not know that part, but
Yeah, he was just talking to some reporters right after BP, and they was like, "Do you know you got traded?" And he was like, "What?"
Good Lord.
I think he got traded to the other team that they were playing. So,
Might have.
yeah, so that's awkward. Hey, good to see y'all. I guess that's it for baseball. Let's see. I want to move to the NFL. So, start with the Ravens. Got some bad news. Rookie center Tyler Linderbaum has some sort of injury and will be out some amount of time. That is all we know.
Is that vague enough for you, Eric?
Yeah,
Some
'cause,
amount of time.
Yeah,
Some
because
sort of injury, some amount of time.
it's like a foot injury, so they said it was a Liz Frank, and then they said it wasn't. A Liz Frank takes months, if not years, to heal.
Yeah, Liz Franks
But
are not good.
something less than that might take weeks or days. So we don't know, right? Harbaugh's being all cagey and stuff. He's not saying anything. And he keeps saying, "Well, you got to ask the doctor." Well, the doctor doesn't do press conferences, so we can't ask the doctor. Still no update on Lamar's contract. Same old with that.
But some good news for the Ravens this week.
Which is what?
J.K. Dobbins.
Oh, yes,
Activated
J.K.
off
Dobbins
PUP.
did
He's
get...
expected to start week 1, which is not just good news for the Ravens, but also good news for me because I have his rights as a keeper in like the 13th round.
Congratulations. There's no guarantees there.
No. I do also have to consider Travis Etienne in the 16th round, but between the two of them,
Travis
I think
Etienne?
I'd go with Dobbins.
How many NFL games has Travis Etienne played?
That would be
I'll
a big
wait.
fat goose egg.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, Travis Etienne. He might be good, but you're counting on that guy? Come on.
That's why I'd probably go with Dobbins, even though it's a few rounds earlier. 13th is still pretty darn good value for a known quantity.
We might have to have a conversation about this keeper business in the off season.
Or you can, start actually thinking about that in the draft.
No, because keepers, it's overrated. It's the most overrated thing of all time. Just keep the best guy you have and move on. That's all it is, right? This is fake football. It doesn't matter. Just pick somebody and then go.
J.K. Dobbins and Derrick Henry sounds pretty good to me.
I mean,
you're gonna pick Derrick Henry 1-1.
Maybe. Well, because Brandon is probably going to keep Christian McCaffrey. He's a second rounder, or maybe first rounder. But Brandon Saunders picked him last year because he was ineligible the year before when Anthony had him. So Christian McCaffrey is not going to be in the
draft pool.
In the draft pool, most likely.
Okay.
Alrighty. Yeah. The keeper's overrated. Just pick the best guy.
Jonathan Taylor is also not going to be in the draft pool.
Oh yeah, somebody will probably keep him.
I'm keeping Cooper
so
Kupp.
I'm not sure who
question.
you're thinking that I should pick over him.
I didn't realize that Christian McCaffrey was going to be kept.
Yeah, my guess right now is that Christian McCaffrey and Jonathan Taylor will both be kept. If one or either or both of them are not kept, then yeah, I'm probably going to take one of them over Derrick Henry. But
okay, just making sure you're not going cuckoo.
Is George Kittle going to be kept this season?
I mean, I guess he could be, but he's not going to be a first-round keeper like Drew did with the 3rd overall pick a few years ago.
But Drew kept him last year as the 3rd overall pick.
I thought that was 2 years ago.
I think it was this year.
Well, that was last year.
It was last year, so I don't think
Kittle's... then maybe he's
George
not
Kittle's not eligible to be kept.
Then maybe he's not eligible to be kept.
Drew kept keeping him for some reason. So
I'm not taking him first overall.
I mean, you could.
You could. I would encourage you to do so.
I'm sure you would.
Yeah, because then I get a better player. But yeah.
All right. Let's see, Corey. You were really into the Hall of Fame inductions. I wasn't feeling it as much. Because there was no. I mean, I feel kind of bad. There's no Peyton Manning in this Hall of Fame class, but this Hall of Fame class didn't have that level of star power, I guess is what I mean. So,
but how many Hall of Fame classes ever have had a Peyton Manning level of star power in them?
I mean, some of them do, and some of them don't.
Some of them, when Tom Brady gets inducted, they'll have that. When Jerry Rice was inducted, they had that. When Joe Montana was inducted, but a lot of Hall of Fame classes don't have that player who is in the conversation as the GOAT at their position.
Well, who would you say the headliner is for this draft class?
For this year's draft class, I'd probably say Dick Vermeil. Which, I mean, they also gave him the most amount of time to talk. He talked for 24 minutes compared to, I think the longest besides his was 12 minutes.
Well, considering recently we've seen Peyton Manning, Ed Reed, Ray Lewis, all three of those guys certainly outclass Dick Vermeil in terms of headliner status.
Sure.
So, I mean, this year compared to recent years in the past, it's probably a little bit lacking of that punch. So I agree with that.
Yeah,
a little
but
bit,
still, I mean, I absolutely wanted to watch the induction speeches.
Did Dick Vermeil cry?
I will get to that.
Oh, okay.
So this year we had 5 players, a contributor and a coach all get into the Hall of Fame. Sam Mills was inducted posthumously, former Saints and Panthers linebacker. His wife presented him, and she spoke for maybe 4 or 5 minutes, just kind of talking about the humanity of Sam Mills, the kind of person that he was during his life. Of course, he had cancer and died of that back in, I think, 2015. I forget exactly what year, but it's been a little while now. There was an episode of A Football Life about Sam Mills, and it was a really good episode. I'd certainly recommend it to anybody who's interested in watching that.
Corey, can I interrupt you for a second?
Yeah.
Briefly. There is a thunderstorm coming here in Western Maryland, so if I cut out, that would be why.
Okay. Yep.
Continue.
We'll keep an eye out, but hopefully nothing too bad.
Yeah.
Bryant Young, who is a defensive tackle for the San Francisco 49ers, he talked about, he thanked the 49ers organization and talked about the great ownership groups that they had during his career, which, Eddie DeBartolo actually presented him, and Eddie DeBartolo is in the Hall of Fame. He gave a pretty good speech. I don't remember how many years ago that was now. I lose track, but it was probably like 7 or 8 years ago that DeBartolo got into the Hall of Fame. But he talked about his children and how thankful he is for them. He had 6 children, has 5. He talked about his son Colby, who died of cancer, and that was a really emotional portion of the speeches for the day. Richard Seymour talked about his mom taking him to his first football tryout 3 decades ago, and about how he didn't even get out of the car. But she believed in him when he didn't believe in himself. And, you look at him now, and, his career spent primarily in New England. He also spent a little bit of time in Oakland with the Raiders. Just a terrific player, all around class act. Really enjoyed hearing his speech. Tony Baselli's speech was, I always hate to call any speech forgettable, because they're all, these are all some of the great players of all time. But honestly, the most memorable thing about his speech is just him talking about the fact he's the first Jaguar to be inducted, and the fact that he was presented by Mark Brunell. Which was cool. But yeah, so the Jaguars now have a Hall of Famer, which is neat. Leroy Butler's speech was, he kept it short, sweet. It was full of really funny quips. I'm not going to try and make any of them from his speech, because I would not do them justice. But if there was a short speech you wanted to watch from the Hall of Fame inductions, I would definitely recommend you check out Leroy Butler's. He waited 16 years to be inducted, played all 12 of his seasons with the Packers, and was a really good player. Probably took a little bit longer than it should have for him to get in. Art McNally did not attend in person, but he did prepare a brief speech in which he discussed the honor that it represented to be inducted as an official. Talked about how the goal of good officials is for nobody to even know you're there, which, amen to that. I've had enough of these
Angel
officials
Fernandez.
that try to make things about them and try to get their names known. If you're actually a good official, you will get recognized for it at some point. So, and then the long speech, about 24 minutes, Dick Vermeil spoke. I thought that Peyton Manning said last year that they were only being given 6 minutes. He talked about, when Tom Brady was inducted as a first ballot Hall of Famer in 2035, he wouldn't be able to do anything more than post a thank you to Instagram. But yeah,
Ray Lewis just got done talking a little while ago.
Right, and Ray Lewis just got done giving his speech. But Dick Vermeil, he spent the entire speech thanking a lot of people. One of the more memorable people that he thanked was John Wooden. Dick Vermeil spent time coaching at UCLA while John Wooden was coaching there, and so he talked about just being able to talk to Wooden and pick his brain, and he's a basketball coach, but apparently gave Dick Vermeil a lot of great advice that he was able to apply as a football coach. There was a funny moment where he said, "God darn it," because he was frustrated that he didn't have time to thank everyone. He suggested that assistant coaches need to be put in the Hall of Fame and that Mike Martz and Al Saunders would be in those classes. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, especially Al Saunders given his tenure with Washington. That didn't go so hot.
That was bad.
Yeah.
Who was that?
I think
He was an offensive coordinator.
He was the coordinator for the Chiefs in the early 2000s. When their
and he was brought
were...
over to Washington, I think, when Joe Gibbs was coaching, and when Joe Gibbs retired, again, a lot of us thought that Al Saunders was going to be the next head coach, and I don't think he wound up being the next head coach. And
wasn't it Jim Zorn after that?
Yeah, they went to Jim Zorn instead, and that was all weird. But
well, Jim Zorn was hired as the offensive coordinator before they hired a head coach,
right?
And then Dan couldn't find a head coach, so he just said, "Oh, you're it." And Jim Zorn was like, "This wasn't the job I signed up for, but okay." Yeah. And he looked like a guy who didn't sign up to be the head coach, but was told to do it.
But Al Saunders was the Washington offensive coordinator back when Greg Williams was the defensive coordinator and Danny Smith was the special teams coordinator.
Well, apparently Al Saunders had this 700-page playbook or something outrageous like that, and everybody talked about, young Jason Campbell's going to have to learn this really complex playbook, and I'm just like, who cares about any of that? Nobody in the offensive line can block except for Chris Samuels, so who cares?
Yeah. But yes, he did cry. He did hold off for 21 minutes.
Wow.
He actually made reference. He was like, there are a number of people that, I'm not thanking today by name because they would make me cry. But of course, when he mentioned his wife at around the 21st minute, yes, he cried. Thanked her for everything that she's meant to him in his life. And he closed out his speech by saying that he's the 28th head coach to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. And he said that if he deserves this honor, then Mike Holmgren, Dan Reeves, Marty Schottenheimer, Mike Shanahan, Tom Coughlin, George Seifert, and Don Coryell all need to be in the Hall of Fame too. I guess he considers all of them to be better coaches than he was.
I'm surprised some of these guys aren't in already. Why isn't Don Coryell or Mike Holmgren in?
Or Marty Schottenheimer.
Marty Schottenheimer, yes. And Dan Reeves coached for a long time. You don't coach for a long time if you're not good, right? He has the record for most losses ever. Well, so does Connie Mack in baseball. You stick around for a while, you're pretty good. So you're gonna, accrue some losses.
Doesn't Cy Young have the most losses for a pitcher?
I think so.
I would assume so, because he's got the most wins.
He's got over 300 losses.
Yeah.
Oh, that guy's a bub. 300 losses.
Yeah.
He couldn't pitch.
No.
But yeah, so those are the Hall of Fame induction speeches, and I mean, all of them are worth listening to. But if you had to pick, 2 or 3 that you should really listen to, I would say Leroy Butler, Dick Vermeil, and Richard Seymour were the 3 that really kind of stood out to me. Partly because those are the players that I really kind of knew who they were, other than Sam Mills, who couldn't give a speech himself.
I'm sorry. Odor just toot bland trying to.
Oh my God.
He tried to go from first to third on a single to left and got thrown out at third.
You say that like you're surprised.
Just stand on the base. Okay, this is why we need to get rid of Odor. I don't care that he's a good clubhouse guy. Didn't the 1998 Yankees all hate each other, but they won 114 games or something like that? It's about being good at baseball.
I don't think that's true.
I don't care that he's a good clubhouse guy.
The 98 Yankees not liking each other.
Yeah, I thought they all hated each other, but they just kept crushing everybody anyway.
No, Jeter and A-Rod did not like each other on the 09 Yankees.
And they won a championship too.
They did.
So some of that stuff doesn't matter. It's about production. It's about wins and losses. And Rougned Odor, you're contributing to the losses right now. So, to save his good clubhouse guy, we'll leave him in there for the games. How about that? Is that it on the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I think so. And
Overbooking.
we're gonna get to some fantasy football talk in a few weeks here. Starting to close in on the draft, which is very exciting.
Yeah, I reactivated one of my leagues this afternoon. So, need to schedule 2 drafts and, figure out what I'm doing Labor Day weekend. May or may not go back to Kings Island, but we'll see. We'll see, because you can't go to Kings Island, by planning. You have to just go on a whim in the middle of the night. That's how that works.
That's what we do.
Yeah. So, let's switch to the NBA, I guess briefly, because the drama never ends with this league.
Or with this player.
Or with this player, exactly. And I'm tired of it. Kevin Durant reiterates his desire for a trade, and I think that's funny because that is just too bad, man. You signed on the line.
Well, my favorite part of it is the way that he is, basically demanding it. The fact that he's saying it's either the coach or him. It's like, bro, you were the one who put the coach there in the first place.
Didn't you pick the coach?
Yeah, he did. He and Kyrie Irving picked Steve Nash to be the coach. Basically told him to fire Kenny Atkinson, who had done a respectable job. Basically dictated every move that Sean Marks had to make to keep him happy. Acquiring DeAndre Jordan, who was thoroughly washed. Trading away Jared Allen because, he was too good to come off the bench. And they wanted James Harden, which clearly was a disaster. Clearly, KD and Kyrie's stewardship of the Brooklyn Nets front office didn't go
going
great.
great.
Yeah, it ain't exactly cracking over there. But I don't want to talk too much about this. I just put this in because it's Kevin Durant. He's a noteworthy guy in the NBA. Notice I didn't include the beef between DeJounte Murray and Paolo Banchero. I don't think that's relevant.
I didn't know that there was beef between them.
Yeah, no. If it carries over to the regular season. Then
was DeJounte Murray the one who dunked over Banchero?
Yeah, he threw the ball off the backboard and then threw down a dunk, and then he chucked the ball at him and woofed at him. Yeah,
I didn't know that he chucked the ball at him after.
Yeah, it was a whole thing. Anyway, Kevin Durant. So KD is, I guess, trying to flex here, maybe. I think
Flex what?
Whatever he's got. He doesn't have much. He's kind of skinny, but. He's.
I mean, this reminds me of just today, Donald Trump melting down over the FBI director and them raiding Mar-a-Lago, but he's basically he's getting mad at FBI director that he put in place and spoke very highly of at the time. He's basically saying actually, I don't know how to evaluate people. This is what KD is doing here by saying it's either me or the coach. You're telling on yourself. You're saying, you know what? I actually don't know how to evaluate coaches, and nobody should ever listen to me when I suggest that a coach should be my coach.
Well, and beyond that, he wants the GM canned too. And Joe Tsai, the Nets owner, is probably looking at this and saying, okay, the only thing incorrect that Sean Marks has done, and it's a big one, is listen to Kevin Durant. So At what point does Joe Tsai say, okay, this guy was doing a very good job. We had somehow recovered from the disastrous trade that they made with Boston back in 2013, 2014, where they traded away years and years worth of first-round picks for the decaying corpses of Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce in an effort to try to compete with the Miami Heat in the Eastern Conference, and that didn't work out. They didn't even make it past the second round. And somehow Sean Marks managed to turn that team into a playoff team. The Nets were in the playoffs in the bubble, and that's with Kyrie not playing virtually at all that year, and Kevin Durant mending a torn Achilles. So clearly they had something going on there where they were building a culture and turning this team into something that was, maybe not remarkable, but better than they should have been given the circumstances. And then KD and Kyrie got to play general manager, got to pick their coach, got to pick their teammates, got to say which young players can go for James Harden. Got to figure out, hey, do we even like James Harden? Does James Harden even like us? And it turned into an absolute disaster. And now Kevin Durant seems to want to blame Sean Marks for the things that Sean Marks did at his behest. So it's a little bit of nonsense here. I don't know exactly what KD's hoping to accomplish by trying to get this guy fired, because the next guy is just going to do whatever KD wants, which is clearly not going to work out because it hasn't worked out so far. Kyrie's on a 1-year deal because he opted in. He's not a long-term Net by any means. It feels like KD knows he's stuck, and so he's going to pound the table a little bit more until he's able to get out of town. And the Nets aren't buying it. They're saying, okay, we're not going to fire our guys to appease you. That's just going to make the situation worse. And we are not going to trade you for pennies on the dollar. We're going to want proper compensation for, a future Hall of Famer who is still really, really good and has 4 years left on his contract. We're not just going to say, hey, give us some picks. No, you got to give us a good player, like a Jaylen Brown type of player, along with future assets.
All of your picks.
Yeah, so I think that they're holding out. They're like, because, again, Kevin Durant doesn't have any leverage. Like, what's going to happen if they say, no, we're not trading you until we get what we want, and that may never happen? Is he not going to show up? Okay, then he doesn't get paid. And anybody that says stuff like, oh, well, this just proves that the Nets are a surly organization that defies the wishes of their players, and so nobody's going to want to play there, at some point you got to put your foot down.
Yeah.
You can't just say, oh, well, people might not like us if we keep, actually standing up for ourselves. I'm like, no, at some point, the system's broken at that point. If the players can say, hey, I got 4 years left on my deal, but I don't want to be here, so get rid of me immediately or else I will compromise your franchise's integrity, basically. I'll tell everybody else you guys suck. That's not going to work.
When you're on a rookie deal, I'm going to tend to, side more so with the player because the player has not had a choice in where they go at this point in their career. In KD's choice, he chose to go to the Nets. He chose to accept this contract.
Yeah.
Like, we've said this before on the podcast ad nauseum. There is no woe is me when it's self-inflicted. And this is self-inflicted for Kevin Durant.
He decided to team up with Kyrie Irving. I mean, this is what happens. And, I've said it before, but it's worth repeating. I can't help but think that all of this started because Golden State won the championship. And let's face it, that blows back pretty badly on Kevin Durant for a couple of reasons. One, the facade that the Warriors only were winning championships because of Kevin Durant is blown away because
that was already blown away. They'd won championships before he got there.
Yes, it was a ridiculous narrative in the first place, but then it just reinforces it now because the last championship before this one the Warriors had won, Kevin Durant was there. And the one before that, Kevin Durant was there. And the time before that they were in the finals, they blew a 3-1 lead. So everybody looks at that first title and says, that was a fluke. Kyrie and Kevin Love were injured. This one is unimpeachable. And it happened 2 months ago. So it's in the forefront of everybody's mind saying, damn, KD, you got swept. And the reason you got swept by the Celtics was because you played badly. And then the dude you left that you insisted wasn't, as good as you, just whooped their ass. So there's a legacy conversation there beyond just it's two-pronged because it's one, well, I guess they didn't really need you. And then two, what the hell were you thinking leaving that situation where you could stack rings and, according to the consensus, get a lot of the credit, if not most of the credit, for those championships, even though you probably didn't deserve it. You could have been on easy street for the rest of your career, and everybody would have said, after you won 5 or 6 championships or something ridiculous like that, that it was all you because people considered you better than Steph. But now you'll leave, and Steph wins, and you haven't done anything since then, and now people are like, well, damn, I guess Steph's a better player. Like, people are finally coming around on something that's been obvious to me for a while, but people are like, wow, this is for real. Like, the thing that people have said that everybody else ignored, the people that ignored it are starting like, okay, maybe you had a point.
I think this underscores the ridiculousness of sort of how the NBA kind of is. Like, Golden State winning the championship has absolutely nothing to do with Kevin Durant. He was thousands of miles away, right? Like, why does he care? He should be worrying about his own team, why his own team is hot garbage, and why they're just trading for people who aren't any good and trading away people who are good. He needs to figure out, why he demanded that they hire Steve Nash, who apparently can't coach. He needs to look in the mirror, right? Instead of comparing his team to somebody else's team. Like, this is absurd to me.
Absolutely.
And Kyle Bradish can't throw strikes. Yeah.
Yes, Kyle Bradish cannot throw strikes. But anyway, it seems like Joe Tsai is siding with Sean Marks and siding with Steve Nash. He's not going to let Kevin Durant push him around. He's liked tweets that have reinforced that. He's retweeted tweets that's reinforced that.
Yes, the tweets.
Yes.
Because that's news now. The tweets.
It is
Gotta
news.
watch who's liking the tweets.
This is 2022. This is newsworthy.
Ugh.
And noticeably, Kevin Durant, who is typically very prickly and irritable on Twitter and was willing to clap back at average Joes with egg profiles, seemingly doesn't have the same level of energy for the team owner. So
You mean the guy who signs his gigantic checks?
yeah, I guess KD's not feeling tweeting at the boss.
Oh, okay. Well, that's if you're not going to tweet at the boss, then you probably shouldn't be tweeting at all. Like, this is, you got to put your money where your mouth is. Or I guess in this case, your mouth where your money is.
Sure.
Right? It's unbelievable. Is that it on the NBA?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Let's go down a level to college basketball. Eric attended the inaugural ABL game at Xfinity Center. You're going to have to explain to our audience and myself what that means.
Well, apparently this is the first season, and this is also subsequently the first game of the Alumni Basketball League that featured former players from, I guess, different college basketball programs. I don't know who all is in the league. All I know is that Maryland was playing Georgetown on Saturday night, and it was in Xfinity Center, but it was not in the main gym. It was in the little dinky gym on the side that they let us, average white guys play in sometimes. But
There's a second gym?
Yes. And so we were in that one for that game. Started at 8 o'clock, and it was a weird experience because you're seeing all these former Terps, some of which you fellas would certainly recognize.
Are all of them former basketball players
Yes.
at Maryland and Georgetown?
Yes.
Okay.
So it was like Melo Trimble and Byron Mouton and
Byron played.
Yeah,
That's
and
cool.
Sean Mosley and DeMonte Dodd and James Gist and Kenny Ebekwe, your boy Evan.
No Des Wells?
No Des Wells.
That'd be
Yeah.
What about Chris McRae?
Well, I don't know if he would feel comfortable playing on an alumni team after he got kicked out of school. But that being said, Terrell Stoglin got kicked out of school and he was on the team.
Oh,
so
really?
There you go. I love me some Terrell Stoglin.
Wow.
But yeah, it was kind of cool to see all these guys.
Sunshine. Jake Lehman.
Oh, he's in the league, so.
Oh, is he still playing in
Yeah,
the NBA?
he's glued to the bench of the Minnesota Timberwolves, but he's in the
Glued to the bench.
Yes. He ain't getting many minutes, especially not now that they've acquired some pretty good players. But yeah, it was an interesting experience. Had kind of a high school gym feel. Crowd was pretty into it. Maryland got destroyed, like absolutely wrecked. I had a feeling when I looked at Maryland's roster. I'm not going to go into too many specifics, but to be honest, a lot of the guys that people love, especially in the recent past, the Terps, like the Turgeon Terps, I never thought they were that good.
No.
Like I always thought that they kind of just got by on whatever. Like maybe they relied on some whistles or something like that. I was like,
Who did Georgetown have?
they had Greg Monroe, who played in the NBA this year, so I thought that was kind of crap.
So
I'm
Jake
like,
Lehman could have played.
I don't think anybody was disqualified, but Jake Lehman was probably like, I'm making millions of dollars. I'm not doing this crap, But Greg Monroe
You'd hate to get injured so that you can't ride the bench as well.
Well, but if he gets injured, you might not get paid. Like they might say you were being reckless in the offseason or something like that. And
Sounds like Greg Monroe probably should have thought about that.
well, Greg Monroe, it hasn't really been on a roster a whole lot. Like he played like 2 games for the Wizards this year. I think he played a grand total of 14.
And it was for the Wizards.
Yeah, and he played like a grand total of 14 games the last season, and it was all over the league. Like he probably was a guy that got picked up when teams were missing guys due to COVID.
Yeah, it's like a bunch of 10-day contracts.
Yeah, so
Gotcha.
it seemed like that was sort of what was going on there. Nevertheless, he was in the league, and none of the Terps have been in the league. In fact, I don't know if any of the Terps that were on the court ever even played in the league. Like, I know that James Gist got drafted at the end of the second round, but I don't think he ever logged any minutes or even made a roster.
Byron Mouton didn't play in the league.
Yeah, neither did Melo Trimble, neither did Ant
Or
Cowan.
Stoglin.
No, Stoglin did not play in the league.
Anybody
either.
else for Georgetown that was of note?
Well, it was Smith Rivera. He played in 2016. I don't know if he ever played in the NBA, but he lit us up when we played Georgetown for real in 2016. But we were able to somehow win that game. But he lit up the alumni Terps. I think he scored 29 points. He hit like 7 of his 11 threes.
Did they have was it Hopkins?
No DeMatha guys. So no Austin Freeman, no Mikhail Hopkins.
Okay.
Chris Wright, who's a St. John's guy, was the coach. I don't recall if he ever
interesting.
actually played. And Travis Garrison was the player coach of the College Park
Travis
squad.
Garrison.
Yeah, DeMatha guy. So there's your
Yeah.
one DeMatha guy.
Yeah.
And then,
Nice.
but yeah, they got wrecked, and like at one point they were down by 40. Yeah, like when I say wrecked, I mean wrecked. But so they ended up playing it kind of like
Were
the
they
All-Star
playing like
game.
20-minute halves?
10-minute quarters.
See, they played 10-minute quarters for the alumni game, but not for the actual college game.
And they do it at every level of college basketball except for NCAA men's. It's bizarre. And so they had some goofy stuff in there, like at the end of each quarter, each team selected a player to play one-on-one for a possession, and whoever scored a bucket got credit for that on the scoreboard.
Oh, that is goofy.
Yeah, it was a little silly. And then, so the way they played it was also like sort of like the All-Star game in the NBA, where they had 5 minute, like at the under 5 minute, they had like official timeouts. And for the fourth quarter, when they had the under 5 timeout, for that they turned the clock off and they said same thing where whoever's team has the highest score, add 11 points to that, and whoever gets to that number first wins. Well, Maryland was down by like 35 points at that point, so I was like, they're toast.
Yeah.
But at that point, Georgetown knew they just needed to score some buckets, so they stopped playing defense. So the Terps kind of got it. They got it within like 26 before Georgetown finally put them away. But yeah, it was a joke. The basketball was not very good, especially on the Terps end. Obviously,
What was the over/under going in?
I doubt that there was any action on this game at all. But it was just an interesting experience. I paid as much money for that ticket as I did to go sit in Oriole Park on a bobblehead day, so maybe a little bit overpriced.
It wasn't free to go to that game?
No, it cost me $35. Yeah, so it was basically the same cost as going to the Orioles game on a promotion night.
Did the players get paid?
I
Like,
have
do they get
no
a
idea.
portion of the game?
Where does that money go?
price?
I could not tell you. I don't know anything about players actually getting paid for this. It might just be on the free. I could
I
not
would
tell
hope
you.
so, especially now that college players are actually getting paid. You
I-
think
I-
that people
I-
want to get paid after
I
college.
can't tell you how much money these guys actually would make in this situation. I can't imagine it's a lot. But they tried their best to make it an event, and it was kind of cool because a lot of former Terps were there watching. Jalen Smith, who is in the league, was there. Daryl Morcell came back. Quinn Cook was actually in the house.
Quinn Cook just signed a contract with the Kings.
Yes, he did. Shout out to Quinn Cook. But yeah, he was there. I saw him because Sasquatch was like, "Is that Quinn Cook over there?" I was like, "Yeah." Like, yes. Like, he played in the NBA. He's won 2 championships. You ought to recognize him because you've seen him. I was like, "Oh wait, this guy doesn't like professional basketball."
And I'm sure Sasquatch is also like, why is he here? He's a dookie.
Well, yeah, he also didn't love it when I told him at the baseball game that I was standing on the altar at Duke Chapel. I feel like just a month prior, he was like, "You got to be kidding me!" I was like, "Hey, man, it wasn't my wedding. What am I going to not show up?" But yeah.
Does he know whose wedding it was?
Yes, of course he does. I told him that part. He was like, "What's going on here?" I'm like, "What do you care? Like, it's like you guys don't even hang out anymore. So what difference does it make?" But anyway, but the sort of the most noteworthy thing was the fact that Jamie Kaiser, a 2023 recruit that the Terps have been targeting, he's a DMV kid.
Yeah, apparently 26-point losses do it for him.
Yeah, because Sasquatch was worried as the game was unfolding and we were just getting absolutely destroyed. He was concerned that this would dissuade him from coming to Maryland. I was like, would he be here if he wasn't going to sign with Maryland? Like, would he be coming to this event?
Right.
This silly, stupid event that we are attending for overpriced tickets.
With no players that he will ever actually play basketball
Yes.
with during his college career.
So you think this guy cares what a bunch of 30 to 35-year-old men, or maybe even 40-year-old men in Byron Mouton's case, are doing against Georgetown's 35-year-old men? They don't care. I mean, these guys are out of shape. Like, they're not even, like, fit. So it was a ridiculous thing to worry about, and sure enough, the next day he committed to Maryland. It's a good get for Kevin Willard. I mean, it was just interesting because it feels like this is happening in congruence. We talked about this on the chat a little bit, about Maryland's former players, specifically Gary's players, kind of coming back into the fold a little bit. We didn't really see much of Gravis Vasquez. Certainly haven't seen anything of Travis Garrison.
Certainly hadn't seen as much of Grievous Vasquez.
Yeah. I'm gonna let
What happened to that guy Jordan Williams? I think where's
He's
he
in
at?
prison.
He's in prison.
Yeah, he got picked up on some kidnapping charges. So
Yeah.
Jeez.
well, we don't talk about him.
Oh,
No, we don't.
But yeah, Joe Smith showed up, had some words
Oh, nice.
for the crowd. It was just kind of a really silly but kind of cool event. They obviously had to work out some kinks. The officials were struggling with how to mop the floor. It took like 5 minutes at a time when there was a sweat spot that they had to clean up. And I'm just like, I see the dude with the flat squeegee, and I see the guys with the towels. Just get somebody to wipe it up. Like
no gas, no squeegee.
Yeah, I didn't get what happened. And it took him forever to also litigate the one-on-one thing because I guess there was a 2-foul limit. Like, once you foul the guy a second time, he gets to shoot free throws, and that'll be the end of the sequence. But
Assuming he makes them.
Yeah, assuming he makes them. Yeah.
Makes A.
Which was also hilarious because Sasquatch made a terrible bet with me at the Orioles game the night before where who's it, Brett Phillips was up?
Yes.
And Brett Phillips bet 148 on the season, and Sasquatch bet me that he would reach base. And the next bet, he bet me $5, and I was like, "Yeah, you're on." And he went popped out or something like that. And I was like, "Yeah," collected my money. And so he was like, "All right, tomorrow at the alumni game, I'm getting my money back." So then he bets me after Greg Monroe fouled Ekene Ebekwe at the top of the key shooting a 3. He bet me that Ebekwe would make at least 2 out of the 3 free throws. And I was like, Sasquatch, you don't understand. I made so much money betting on Ekene Ebekwe to miss free throws with my dad. He was my cash cow. He's not making 2 out of 3. He goes up there, first one clanks, and I'm just like, ha ha. And Sasquatch's just holding his head like, oh. But so I'm still in it. Choose the next one, brick. Oh, that's the end of that. He ended up missing all 3 of them. So I was like, yeah, give me another $1. So I took mercy on him. I made a bet that I normally wouldn't make to let him get his $1 back, where he bet me again on Ebekwe just making 1 out of 2 free throws. He made 1 out of 2. He did not make both. But yeah, he made me that bet. And I was just like,
funny if he had missed all 3 again.
I missed 2. Yeah, it would have been great for my wallet. But yeah, it was a cool little event. Hopefully they work out the kinks because it seems like a fun idea. I'm not paying $35 to go again, but hopefully the Terps get a better squad or get some more cohesiveness. But it was just an enjoyable little teaser college basketball thing, a little throwback. Just seeing some old faces.
Yeah.
Okay. I looked up Brett Phillips for this year. Eric, you shorted him. He's batting 149 on the season, not 148.
I'm sorry.
He must have gotten hits on the other at bats yesterday or this weekend that Sasso did not bet on.
He did get a hit.
He did get a hit.
Yeah.
So Sasso just picked the wrong one to bet on.
Yeah,
Well, they're all bad ones to bet on because chances are he's not getting one.
But he picked a particularly bad one.
Yeah, he picked the one that he did. The 9 out of the 10, he picked one of the 9. So there you
go. Brett Phillips' middle name is Maverick.
That's cute.
And then he was drafted by the Astros in 2012. So now we know why he's on the Orioles. He's a Mike Elias guy.
Yeah, there you go.
Austin Riley has a triple and a home run today.
Jeez.
Thank you, Corey Fronton, for dropping him. I don't know what he was thinking.
You could also say thank you to Eric for trading him to Corey Fronton.
Corey Fronton so that he could drop him. Yeah. No, thank you, Eric.
You're welcome.
I picked up Ahmed Rosario today. He got 3.75 because Tim Anderson, as soon as he got done being suspended for the 3rd time this season, he decides that now will be a good time to have a ligament injury in his hand, and he's going to be out 6 weeks.
So why has he been suspended 3 times?
Getting in arguments with umpires.
I didn't even know that. Like, I guess if you do it enough, they'll suspend you.
Well, he bumped an umpire
Oh,
recently.
Yeah,
like
that'll do it. That'll do it.
Jeez.
Can't bump the umpire. No physical
He like
contact.
Earl Weaver headbutted him with his helmet.
Oh, how many games did he get for that?
I think he got 3.
Yeah,
and
that's
it was
appropriate. Yeah.
Down. It was appealed down to 2. Like, you've got to be kidding.
Probably still stayed at 3.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
Headbutting
So-
really?
That's crazy. That's like psycho stuff right there when you start seeing headbutts.
Well, I mean, I don't think he did it on purpose, but
Sure.
you get a little animated and stuff.
You get
right?
a little
and
too
the
close.
brim
for
of your
comfort,
helmet
yeah.
is sticking out, and you might,
Jeez.
accidentally peck somebody. Oh boy. So I think that is, well, no, we have one more sports-related topic. Serena Williams announced her retirement today. This doesn't come as a surprise, I guess, to me. She's 40 years old? She's upper 30s. I mean, that is like super duper ancient in tennis.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know a whole lot about tennis, but to me, she's obviously the best tennis player ever. You're going to have to, go ahead and
certainly in the open era.
Correct me if that's not correct.
No,
but
there's no debate about it in the open era. She is the best.
Open era versus the closed era.
Well, I don't. People would still maybe say Maggie Court just because she has the most
no idea who that is.
titles,
but nobody actually says that. Like nobody.
Who's
ever
the
believes
racist
that.
woman you were talking
Yeah,
about?
she is. That's her. That's why I'm hoping. So Serena Williams is going to play in the U.S. Open. It's going to be her last one. I'm hoping that she manages to pull it out and win it because that would tie her with Maggie Court, and we can just put that to bed. And
I think it's to bed already, right? Like, what's the matter? Eric, go ahead.
Okay, that whole conversation with Margaret Court and Serena Williams. I mean, come on, give me a break. There's a reason why, as Serena was charging up the leaderboard for majors, the person's name you saw at the top of the list was not Margaret Court. It was Steffi Graf, because it was acknowledged that winning 24 slams pre-Open era gets a big fat asterisk. It's insignificant in just about everybody's mind. Margaret Court didn't become a talking point until Serena passed Steffi Graf, because they needed something to talk about with Serena other than, I guess she's just the GOAT, so they wanted to have something else, another milestone for her to top. And it proves itself out because I was doing a little research on this today. Margaret Court won 13 of her 24 majors pre-Open era. And in a 6-year stretch, she won 12 of those between 1961 and 1966. She won 2 at Roland Garros, she won 2 at Wimbledon, she won 2 in New York, and she won all 6 in Melbourne. Well, nobody played in Melbourne back then. It was effectively an Aussie-only tournament because people didn't travel there. It was amateurs only, so nobody had any money to get to Australia. So she was basically competing against one country in the entire world, and it wasn't even the one that had the most tennis players. And that just happens to be the one she won every time, where she only won a third of the other 3 majors. So if you look at it that way, and she actually had to play a full field at the Aussie Open, you could probably at the very least cut that number in half, and suddenly she's only got 21. And that's ignoring the fact that she wasn't playing professionals. That's ignoring the fact that lack of access to the Australian Open continued in the early part of the Open era. And that's not including the fact that she's a deplorable human being. So, just purely based off of observation and numbers, Serena Williams is the GOAT.
I agree with you. I'm certainly not arguing
the
against
number,
it.
and again, I do not mean to impugn Margaret Court's greatness as a tennis player. She was obviously the best player in her era. That's not disputable. The point is that the number 24 is a meaningless benchmark. It's not something that anybody prior to Steffi Graf's number being passed ever considered. Steffi Graf was the record holder in everybody's mind at 22 for decades. And as far as I'm concerned, now Serena Williams is the record holder at 23.
Well, I got an update on the Orioles game. The Blue Jays just scored a run on an error by Rougned Odor. So,
Beautiful.
Please go. Just get rid of him, right? Can we just play with 8 guys? Is that not an option? It's unbelievable.
Oh, the Yankees are probably going to lose to the Mariners tonight because we've got Garrett Cole pitching.
I think that was a 1-game thing against the Mariners. Pretty sure they're moving on to somebody else.
Yeah, we play in Seattle today and tomorrow.
Oh, really? I thought.
No, it's a series against the Mariners.
No, for some reason, I thought it was.
And they're off Thursday before starting a series in Boston.
Oh, so you're telling me I got to root for the Yankees 2 more times in a row? I'm going to be sick.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
Yeah, and tonight we've got Garrett Cole pitching against Luis Castillo, so the Mariners are probably going to win.
Yankees are favored.
Yeah.
But anyway, but aside from just comparing Serena Williams to Margaret Court of all people, she has been the face of tennis, men's and women's tennis, as far as I'm
Most
concerned.
of our lives.
Yeah, for pretty much all of our lives. Like men's tennis has had some great champions in her time as well. Obviously, Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal, and Novak Djokovic, despite our dislike of him at this point, obviously a great player as well. But Serena Williams carried such gravitas beyond just the fact that she was a great player. But we know her story. We know about growing up in Compton, her and Venus being just 2 dynamos on the women's circuit. We've seen her have moments of...
Seen Will Smith's Oscar-winning performance as their father.
Yes, which turned into some other things. We've seen them both be great. We've seen Serena have some moments of weakness, you could say, some petulance. We've seen the good and the bad, and the end result was the greatest women's player of all time, and just an absolute joy to watch. Just a total competitor, an all-time great athlete, and somebody that really didn't get their due for a long time. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but I hope that as she's being sent off at the U.S. Open, people appreciate who they're watching go out for the last time. Because even if it's not with a win, which, as much as we would all love to see that, the odds are against her given her current state of play and her age and things like that. You hope for the best, but just being able to watch her play a few more times or even one more time will be absolute must-see TV as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely hoping I can catch her in the early rounds just in case, because I want to witness that.
Yep.
Okay, well, I think that'll do it for I guess the vast majority of our sports topics. But Eric and I, as
you
our
have been
loyal
doing.
listeners would know, have been all over the country this summer, and that's not stopping. So if I had my camera turned on, and if this wasn't just an audio-only medium, you would see there's a big suitcase behind me. So as soon as we get done recording, I'm going to start packing. So tomorrow, Eric and I are flying to Tampa, Florida, and from there we're going to go to Universal Islands of Adventure and Busch Gardens, Tampa. And then on Saturday, we're going to check out the Orioles and the Rays down at the Trop. So should be a fun time, hoping for good weather. But it's Florida, so it could be, no clouds and then a torrential downpour for 10 minutes and then no clouds after that. Like it just appears out of the air. So, but yeah, should be fun. Eric, are you looking forward to it? We might be able to do Velocicoaster and Iron Gwazi back-to-back days, which, it's probably going to be expensive, but such is life.
Well, we're going, so clearly we're not all that worried about the money. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I had some silly idea in my head that I'm not going to do because, as you know, Evan, and maybe some people are aware, I'm approaching 100 coasters. I've got 96 credits right now, so I'll be breaking that 100, the triple-digit mark, probably at Busch Gardens. I don't think there are 4 coasters at Islands of Adventure that I have yet to ride. There are 2, though, in the Velocicoaster and Hagrid's. So I will be doing both of those, hopefully, on Thursday is the initial plan. And then, number 100 will come in Busch Gardens, Tampa.
You have a specific one you're hoping to make your number 100?
Oh, yeah, Iron Gwazi for sure. Although Montu would be pretty cool too. I wouldn't complain about either of those. But
Montu is spectacular.
yeah,
Ooh boy.
How many coasters are you guys going to be on that, Evan, you have not ridden yet? How many do you suspect you're going to add to your counts? Because you're at 181 right now.
Yeah, I think just 6.
Okay.
So I'm missing 5 from Busch Gardens, and I'm only missing Velocicoaster from Islands of Adventure. I'm also missing Pteranodon Flyers at Islands of Adventure, but you have to be an actual child or accompanying one to ride that. So I'm not even gonna worry about that.
At least Zane and Titanic, just grab a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're not doing it to get off a sinking ship. You're doing it to get a credit for roller coasters.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think it was by the same manufacturer that built Roller Soaker, Set Point.
Yeah, Roller Soaker was fun.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
I think they did.
It's funny that you mentioned Titanic because when I went into the dentist today, the very first song that played was "My Heart Will Go On."
Oh, jeez.
Bo Bichette hit a 3-run home run. It's now 5-3 Blue Jays.
Eric's Dead in the Water team.
Yeah, but not good for the not dead in the water real team, the Orioles. So I don't.
So Kyle Bradish sucks, and they brought in Brian Baker to just lay it in there. He threw a home run on an 0-2 pitch. Unbelievable. Like Kevin Gausman or somebody. What were we talking about?
Universal Islands of Adventure in Busch Gardens, Tampa.
Oh yeah, Islands of Adventure is just spectacular. I can't wait. I mean, if you thought I was excited when we first got to Kings Island and I was jumping up and down and stuff, I don't know that I would be able to drive the car to Islands of Adventure, right? I would just be shaking the whole time. It's. I mean, if I were to rank all the parks I've been to, Islands of Adventure is easily number 1. And, it's really not a discussion.
Even though there's only 4 roller coasters there?
It's amazing, right? They have my favorite log flume ever. They have one of the greatest dark rides of all time in the Spider-Man ride. Let's see.
What is a dark ride?
You go in a box and it's dark and you can only see stuff that they're showing you.
Have you ever ridden the Spider-Man ride at Islands of Adventure?
I've never been to Islands of Adventure.
You've only been to the Universal Studios park?
Yeah.
Oh, you're missing out.
Shame. Wow, you need to go to Islands of Adventure. It's a lot better.
Yeah, it's so much better. Weren't you on the music trip in 2008 when we went to Universal?
Yeah, and they gave us a choice of one or the other, and I wanted to go on the Mummy.
Oh, you chose poorly.
Mummy is fun.
Yeah, Mummy is fun. Universal Studios is bigger. So I was like, I'm going to go to the bigger park.
But they had Hulk and dueling dragons when it was actually dueling. Before it was, thrown in the trash.
Those.
Oh, you missed out on those.
You got to ride the Mummy.
But they didn't have any dark rides at Universal Studios at that time?
I don't know.
They did. They probably had Transformers.
I don't think I went on that.
Something else. A bunch of theater type shows.
Google dark ride today because I have no idea what.
Yeah, it's a very virtual experience where you're in some type of car or something that moves or shakes or whatever, and they've got 3D visuals on the screen, and it very much looks and feels like you're actually living through that universe.
I mean, I've been in some. It was like a Men in Black ride.
That's a dark ride.
Sounds similar to that, but it wasn't like you could see plenty in there, and you were shooting at aliens or whatever.
Yeah, that qualifies as a dark ride. That's
okay.
So
then I have been on the dark ride.
Yeah, but Men in Black is kind of outdated at this point.
Yeah, it is. But the Spider-Man ride's dope.
Oh yeah,
it's really cool.
And that opened in 1999.
Yeah, you can tell it's old, but it's still really awesome.
Disney opened a Spider-Man ride last year, and it's still not as good as this one.
Well, Disney's slacking. That's why we're not going to Disney World.
No, it's not. Or yes, it is. Or something. I don't know. I'm tired. But yeah, so that's what we're going to be doing. Should be a lot of fun. Probably financially irresponsible, but you only live once. So when the opportunities arise, you could either go to work and just sit there with a big frown, or you could go have fun on vacation. So I choose the latter. Yeah, so that is it for our list, unless I'm missing something. So any shout outs or anything that needs to be added before we get out of here?
I guess shout out to Anthony Battle and David Hoke, my assistant coaches for cross country. We're our first day of official practice is this Friday, so we are about to get rolling. We're looking at least 10 athletes on the team this year who have broken 20 minutes in the 5K before. So
wow.
we are gunning for a WCAC championship. You know, nothing is certain, and St. John's has a very good team. But that is our goal, and that is kind of, this is kind of the first time in my coaching career that I can sit here and say, like, a significant measure of the success of our season is going to be whether we win a championship or not, which is exciting. So shout out to the two of them. They take a lot of pressure off of me. They were fantastic last year, helping me out, and I'm looking forward to working with them again this year. And shout out to all the athletes as well as we get ready to get started.
When and where is the championship race? Because I know it's not at Lake Fairfax anymore.
No, so I'm still waiting on official confirmation, but for the past several years, we've been holding it at Bull Run Regional Park, which is in Centerville, Virginia, or Manassas, depending on it's considered either one, I guess.
Okay.
But it'll be down there. It's maybe an hour drive from DeMatha. It's a nice course. It's very spectator friendly, much flatter than the old championship course. So you tend to get better times.
Really? Where are the rocks?
There are some hills, but it's it's not nearly as grueling as the old Lake Fairfax course.
Okay. Disney was trying to build an amusement park in Haymarket, Virginia, right next to Manassas, but it fell through, and there's a golf course there now. So, Eric, do you have anything? Do I have anything?
I don't think so. I guess shout out to Ryan Ripken for being such a sweetheart on Twitter. It's like he just joined Twitter a couple weeks ago, and just said, "Hey, by the way, guys, I'm here. I'm gonna be on Twitter now," and he's just putting out good vibes, like just randomly saying, "Hey, man, I'm eating crabs today. Hope everybody's having a great summer." And I'm just like, we need more. That's what social media was supposed to be. Let us know what you're doing with your mundane but still kind of fun life, and then wish everybody else has fun too. The world will be a better place if that's what social media was. And Ryan Ripken is fighting the good fight, and I respect it. So shout out to you, Ryan.
I would like to shout out Mother Nature. Blue Jays at Orioles is in a rain delay, so we can just put the Orioles getting toasted tonight on a brief pause, and that's
I wish
a relief from our relief pitching.
I wish it had started when we were actually winning, so maybe we could sneak out a cheap W. But
I mean, sometimes you just gotta cut your losses and get out of there, right? It's not gonna happen. But anyway, I guess that's it. Thank y'all for listening to this week's show. Let's see. If you are listening now on whatever podcast platform you're listening to it on, keep listening to it there. Go ahead and subscribe, like, and comment on YouTube. This podcast is on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Podcasts. You should follow us on Twitter at SportsBallers18 and follow us individually on Twitter. Corey's at Corey Puffett, Eric is at Quagmire67, and I am at Evan_Ash13. We are on YouTube. I believe we're live on YouTube. Do we have any comments on the YouTube?
No.
No bot comments that we can't repeat either?
Well, I did actually get some protection set up for that to hopefully limit how many bots can get through and leave comments. But
okay.
No, none of that this week.
Okay. Well, that sounds good. So, yeah, that is it, unless I'm forgetting something. This has been episode 204 of the Sports Ballers podcast. So for Corey and Eric, I'm Evan. Thank y'all for listening, and we will talk to you next week.